In the summer of 1796, a surveying party from Connecticut pushed west into what was then the American frontier. They were led by General Moses Cleveland, a Revolutionary War veteran and director of the Connecticut Land Company. His mission wasn't exploration. It was business. A century earlier, King Charles II had granted Connecticut a massive strip of land stretching all the way to the Pacific Ocean. After the Revolution, most states surrendered these claims to the new federal government. But Connecticut held onto one last piece, a 3-million-acre block along Lake Erie known as the Western Reserve. In 1795, a group of investors bought nearly the entire reserve for 40 cents an acre. They sent Moses Cleveland west to survey the land, negotiate with native tribes, and choose the best place for a new settlement. On July 22, 1796, Cleveland reached the mouth of the Cuyahoga River. What he saw was exactly what the investors were hoping for: a natural harbor, high ground for defense, endless timber, and a river that could one day connect Lake Erie to the Ohio interior. He ordered the land surveyed in a classic New England grid and named the new settlement Cleveland, though he would never return after that first visit. For decades, it remained a small frontier town. But everything changed in the 1820s, when Ohio began building a canal that would link the Cuyahoga River to the Ohio River system. When the Ohio and Erie Canal opened in 1832, Cleveland exploded almost overnight. Goods could now move from the Atlantic Ocean to the Gulf of Mexico, and Cleveland sat right in the middle of that network. By the middle of the 1800s, railroads arrived. Iron ore flowed in from Lake Superior, coal came up from southern Ohio, and Cleveland transformed into one of the fastest-growing industrial cities in America. And with industry came wealth, staggering wealth. That wealth concentrated itself along a single stretch of Euclid Avenue, a broad, tree-lined boulevard with manicured lawns, gas lamps, and gardens that looked like they were imported from Europe. By the 1870s, travel writers were calling it the most beautiful street in America. And they weren't exaggerating. At its peak, Millionaires' Row stretched nearly 4 miles, from East 9th Street to East 55th. Along that corridor stood more than 250 mansions, some with ballrooms, art galleries, and carriage houses larger than most homes. The combined wealth of the families who lived here is difficult to calculate, but historians estimate that, in today's dollars, the residents of Millionaires' Row controlled well over $1 trillion in personal and corporate fortune. This wasn't just a wealthy neighborhood. It was one of the greatest concentrations of private wealth in American history. John Davison Rockefeller was born July 8, 1839, in Richford, New York. His family moved from upstate New York to Cleveland in 1853, when John was just 14. They came seeking better opportunity, and Cleveland's booming port gave him the perfect launching pad. He began as a bookkeeper, but by 1870, he founded Standard Oil right here in Cleveland. He built it into the largest oil empire on earth, controlling nearly 90% of American refining. His wealth, in today's dollars, would exceed $400 billion, making him the richest man in world history. Rockefeller died on May 23, 1937, at age 97. His Euclid Avenue mansion, once a symbol of unimaginable power, was demolished in 1916. Marcus Alonzo Hanna was born September 24, 1837, in Lisbon, Ohio. His family moved to Cleveland in 1852 to expand their grocery business, but Hanna quickly shifted into coal, iron, shipping, and railroads. He built a fortune that made him one of the most influential industrialists in the Midwest. But Hanna's true power came from politics. He engineered William McKinley's presidential campaign and helped invent modern political fundraising. By the time he died on February 15, 1904, at age 66, he was known nationally as the man who built presidents. His Euclid Avenue mansion did not survive the 20th century. It was eventually torn down as the city pushed eastward and commercial development replaced the old estates. Samuel Livingston Mather was born July 13, 1851, in Cleveland, Ohio. Unlike Rockefeller and Hannah, he didn't come to Cleveland. He was born into one of the city's early industrial families and built his empire in the city of his birth. In 1883, he co-founded Pickens, Mather and Company, which became one of the largest iron ore shipping and mining operations in the United States. His wealth reached $300 to $400 million in today's dollars, and his philanthropy shaped Cleveland's hospitals, schools, and cultural institutions. Mather died on October 18, 1931, at age 80. And unlike the others, his home still stands. Mather Mansion, now owned by Cleveland State University, remains one of the last surviving pieces of Millionaires Row, a rare reminder of the era when Cleveland was a powerhouse of American industry. By 1920, Cleveland had reached nearly 800,000 residents, becoming the fifth largest city in the United States. Its industries, steel, oil refining, shipbuilding, automotive parts, chemicals, and electrical manufacturing, powered the nation. But the same forces that made Cleveland rich would eventually tear Millionaires Row apart. Streetcars rattled past the iron gates. Factories crept closer. And the wealthy families who once prized privacy began looking eastward for quieter ground. By the 1920s, the city's elite had abandoned Euclid Avenue for new neighborhoods like Wade Park, Shaker Heights, and Cleveland Heights. As the wealthy moved out, institutions moved in. Churches, hospitals, and universities bought up the old mansions. Others became boarding houses. Many were simply too large or too expensive to maintain. The Great Depression accelerated the decline. Dozens of mansions were left vacant, stripped for materials, or demolished outright. World War II brought more industry, more traffic, and more commercial development. Gas stations replaced gardens. Parking lots replaced lawns. And the last of the great mansions fell one by one. Today, only a few survivors remain. The most iconic is Mather Mansion, standing alone, surrounded by modern buildings, traffic, and the echoes of a vanished world. Millionaires Row wasn't just a neighborhood. It was a moment in American history, a time when Cleveland sat at the center of industry, innovation, and unimaginable wealth. A time when Euclid Avenue truly was the most beautiful street in America. And though the mansions are gone, the legacy of the men who built them still shapes the city, the nation, and the world.